Welcome to the Map Minute. I'm here with Saj, a professional boxer, a record of 15 wins, 3 losses. I'm also, I suppose, a professional boxing coach as well. Thank you for coming on. You've been boxing for over a decade at least, I know that. And when did you first get into boxing, and sort of like when did you know that, okay, I want to do this professionally, and sort of your journey into boxing?
Well, to be fair, I started boxing roughly around the age of 12, just kind of messing about here and there. I wasn't doing much, but my uncle brought me into it mainly for my asthma. So I'm asthmatic. Don't get me wrong, I was talented in a lot of sports, but the thing that always let me down is my asthma, my fitness. So dragged me into the boxing gym, started to enjoy it. Took little breaks here and there, then came back to it at the age of 17. Trained for a bit, had one amateur fight, then turned over pro at 20. So you could say a little bit soon, but I've done pretty well with the minimal experience I had at the time.
I mean, is there any reason why you didn't stay in the amateur game longer?
Well, probably because of advice at the time. Looking back, I should have stayed in the amateur as long as I possibly could, but the advice given at the time was to turn pro and, in essence, make money.
Yeah. Do you think some boxers, especially the ones in the Olympic cycle, they spend too long in the amateur game, and then by the time they reach the pro, they almost develop bad habits, and then almost took the body's almost taken a toll to be successful in the professional game.
You can say that. I mean, there's been cases where amateurs have transitioned over, well, Olympians have transitioned over to the pro games and done really well. And there's been other occasions where they've been so set in the ways of amateur boxing that they weren't able to transition the way you'd expect into the pro game. It's two different sports.
What fundamentally are the differences between like amateur boxing and professional boxing?
Amateur boxing is very high paced, point based, and yeah, it's about trying to land as many as you can as fast as you can. Whereas pro games is a lot more relaxed. There's a lot more ill intent behind every single shot, and you're not just trying to tap and move, tap and move, tap and move.
In terms of like your current situation, where are you at with your career now?
So right now, I am looking to fight for a regional title come end of September. We're just waiting for purse bids. I've been offering several fights outside of the country as well. And at the moment, just sitting down with manager to see what's the best options. I'm currently in a position where, because of how well the coaching side of things are going, I'm now fighting for the enjoyment of it, not because I'm desperate to fight. Does that make sense? So that's the current position I'm in right now.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I follow I followed your journey a little bit, and I saw you obviously you were coaching Sandy Ryan and others, and it's not easy to transition from the professional fighter to coaching, but you are doing a very good job at the coaching. Do you enjoy that more? And if so, like why do you feel like more boxers aren't able to transition to coaching? Because it is a different type of mindset.
The thing is, a lot of boxers have adapted to one singular style. More or less, what works for them, they expect to work for others. Often with fighters who transition into the coaching side, you see that they all teach a singular style, a style that they're accustomed to, a style that they're used to. But a lot of the times, what they don't tend to understand is that a style what works for me may not work for you. So as a coach, you've got to adapt and figure out what works best for your fighters.
But I suppose every coach has a unique style. Like if you look at Kronk boxing, and they develop, and Freddie Roach and so on and so forth. So in regards to yours, you must have a philosophy. You must have a style that you're sort of. I know you're going to adapt it to the boxer, but you're going to have a preferred style, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, very similar to hitting and moving, working off counters. Or equally saying that's how I tend to fight, right? And like I said before, what may work for me may not work for the individual fighter. So what I would do is I'll focus heavily on their base, making sure their foundations are bang on. Then throughout it, try to figure out what style works best for them. I'm giving them the tools, and it's down to them to use it the way that they feel comfortable with.
Obviously, I know you're obviously a professional boxer, so you're going to be coached by others. When you're coaching, who would you say was the greatest influence on your coaching style, and where do you take your coaching style from?
My current coach, Abid McGarble, so he's trained the likes of Josh Warrington, helped him get a world title. And his approach is brilliant. It's very similar to, look, foundations are key. Your base fundamentals is what's going to carry you, and then work on that, and everything else will add on top.
So I did watch you with Sandy Ryan, and obviously she is at elite level, especially in the women's boxing field. Everyone has access, I suppose, to the same boxing ring, same technique, same knowledge. What is these elite boxers doing different to the average boxer? What makes the difference?
Recovering, resting right. That's one of the key things. You can work as hard as you possibly can, but if you're not resting right, you're not sleeping right, you're not eating right, people neglect how important the recovery side of it is, which is, when I'm watching Sandy, or when I'm watching other people train, it's like you see the difference between elite athletes and you're just standard athlete who's just doing it on a, recreational basis. So, even like being serious about your stretching before, you're a professional, and you have to take every aspect of it into a professional state.
So, in regards to your coaching style, like, do you give nutritional advice? Are you giving sort of like holistic, like strength and condition, or do you sort of delegate that to others?
I delegate that to others. I'm not about to step into realms that I'm not qualified in. I'm a boxing coach. I'll do what I know. I obviously know bits and bobs from working with nutritionists, strength and conditioning, strength and conditioners. However, I will. The only advice I would give is based on what they say. Um, and if frankly I can't answer a question, then I won't give a blasé answer. I will refer them over to a man or woman who knows that field.
Do you think in order to be successful in boxing, you have to have like almost everything, strength, conditioning, nutritionist, a proper boxing coach? Like, you have to be almost surrounded by experts, a team of experts, but not everybody can afford that. So what's the answer for, I mean, boxing traditionally is a working man sport. Most of these people are poor at the beginning. So how do you develop that and how do you make these connections?
The thing is what a lot of fighters need to recognize from the get go is that they're products, and the products that sell tend to do pretty well. So you've got to work a lot on your image. Following is a big thing. If you have a good following, then instantly promoters, uh, managers are looking at you and thinking, okay, we can make money out of you, so let's give them opportunity. Often it comes down to that. So if you don't have a backing or the following, no matter how good you are as a fighter, you may not actually get the opportunity that you deserve.
That's interesting you say that. So essentially, it's not. I mean, we all know this. It's not about talent and the boxing. Those that reach the. I think Conor McGregor's a prime example. I know he's in MMA, but attention sells. So when you're advised, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's interesting you mentioned that, because out of nowhere, he followed me this morning. So I'm thinking, is there a connection? But yeah, so go on. Sorry, my apologies.
Yeah, yeah. So look, I suppose even it's interesting because you talk about opportunities, you talk about being noticed, and one of the reasons why I suppose I'm interviewing you because of your social media presence. I mean, if you didn't have one, it doesn't matter if you were the best coach in the world. And I suppose this is the difference between the new generation of coaches and the new generation of fighters, that they understand that attention is currency. So like with your work, and especially your social media work, is high quality videos. It's very interesting, your pad work and the way you're piecing it together. So it does get attention. So when you're advising the youngsters who are going into boxing, like, are you in a way trying to get them to say, look, you need to post more, you need to grow your following and work on just as much as you do in the gym, also on your presence on social media?
Yeah, 100%. It's like these guys need to realize that everyone has a journey. It's about making your journey as interesting as you possibly can, so that people tune in, that people watch, and people actually want to come down and see you do well. I say that to any aspiring amateur fighter. Say as long as you can in the amateurs, get your experience, work on your social presence, your social media, become an image, become a brand, and then when you turn over to the pro side, you're already halfway there.
It's interesting, yeah, because obviously you got to sell tickets. I mean, I suppose there's there is a balance, because sometimes people that sell tickets don't always entertain. The name slips my mind. Hergovich, who just fought
Mm.
Hergovich. What's his name?
Dave Allen, Dave Allen.
Dave Allen. I mean, he's a prime example of this. Personally speaking,
He
I
has
don't
his
think.
spells though.
Yeah, I agree, but I don't know. There is criticism on him, especially in his last performance, that he can sell tickets. He is likable. He's relatable. But in terms of performance, in terms of the opportunities that he's getting, I mean, this is an opinion that perhaps his skill level doesn't warrant the opportunities, but his presence and his relatable. That's why he's getting them. Do you agree with that? Or
Yeah, I agree. Well, I'll give you a prime example. The whole concept of misfits boxing. These are all fighters who have come from, a social media background where they have tons of people following them. Half these guys can't fight. No disrespect to them. I understand the game, it's how it works. Yet they bring in more and get paid more than a professional who's worked their arse off for it. This is not me talking smack on it. I understand the business and I respect it. Um, it's just a sad reality of it.
the boxing style that you hit and miss. I suppose it's not always going to turn out to be knockouts. You
Mhm.
can get a lot of points, wins, and that's not stylistically entertaining. Do you ever
Mhm.
worry that some of your fighters, might not be stylistically entertaining, even if they win?
Yeah, that's never really occurred to me. Bad side of things never occurred to me. Being an entertaining fighter, um, that's a fair one. That's something for me to think about in the long run.
Mm. I mean, obviously, ultimately, the records speak for itself. But you've taken some losses, and I think boxing is a very unforgiving sport. Like MMA, they take losses and they don't take it so serious, and they rebuild them. But boxing, I think, is the Mayweather effect. There's this sort of desire to have the zero for so long. Well, how do you see it when a boxer takes a loss, and how does the industry, because you're in it, the promoters, the people around it, how do they react to it?
Well, it's interesting. I think it would take a lot of rebuilding for fighters, especially with fighters with low profile. Look, I have a relatively low profile as a fighter. When I took my first loss, it was, if anything, it was on one of the biggest shows I've ever been on. It was on Amir Khan's Undercard. I got stopped live in front of millions of people. You can imagine the thoughts that are going through my head. Am I really about this? Now I've got to do X, Y, and Z to bounce back. Um, what I always say is that resilience is probably one of the key things you need as a fighter, um, not just on a physical aspect, but a mental aspect too. So it took me a while to bounce back, and I did. I came back and knocked one of their boys out in Dubai, and it's like one of those things where I went from having that hero to zero story to then becoming a hero again after that performance. So look, what I always believe in is, if you truly have that self belief, you put your head down and graft, and then believe your time will come.
Yeah. You mentioned Amir Khan, so I'll get onto that. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about your techniques and coaching a bit more as well. But when Amir Khan came onto the scene, and he won the Olympic silver medal, and then went on to win world titles, there was this sort of explosion of particularly British, Asian, Pakistanis that went into boxing, and it was huge. And you thought that there's going to be a new generation that followed his steps. I know Hamza Shiraz, I suppose, is the closest to it that we have now, but there isn't as many as I thought. And what do you think? Why do you think that is the case? And what are the obstacles that I suppose I suppose British Pakistani boxers face?
Um, if you think about it, not a lot of them are as marketable as Amir Khan was. Um, there isn't many British Pakistani fighters who went through the Olympic route that he did. So that was another thing. So, after winning silver, the man went on to do great things. He himself single-handedly opened up boxing for British Pakistanis. So that's what I believe. It's like, look, there's not been a lot of fighters who have gone through the route that he has, hence why they haven't had the results that he has. Hamza Shiraz is fantastic. He's marketable. He can speak really well. Good looking lad as well, and that all plays effect in being able to sell.
Yeah. So just touching back on your coaching style, when you are coaching, how much like the balance in terms of sparring, pad work, the conditioning, what's the balance that you think that it's required for professional boxing?
Professional boxing, it's interesting. So it kind of depends on the actual level of the fight, depending on the rounds, etc., etc. Look, sparring is one of the most key fundamentals in professional boxing. However, hard sparring on a regular basis can be an issue later down the line. I'm not a big fan of frequent hard spars, but they're important nonetheless. So it's a difficult one. I know when I was in training camp leading up to 10-round fights, I would normally spar once or twice a week, coming on to 4 to 6 weeks out of the actual fight. Um, but like for the recreational guys, the only time I'd feel they need to spar is if they are wanting to, and also if they want to participate in charity fight and whatnot. Then they'll have to understand how it is to actually get hit in the face. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the pad work, it's an interesting thing because, I suppose again I'm going to put this down to Mayweather. This idea of looking great on the pads and sort of like almost like the coach, sort of, doing half the job if you like, because moving your
Yeah.
hands and stuff like this. Where is this the pad work? And where do you place it? Like, I know there's a when you're doing pads, what are you thinking? Because sometimes I feel like the pad work is almost like a promotional tool now rather than an actual technique.
Look, a lot of fighters, whether they're professional or recreational, they love hitting pads. Now, from a recreational point of view, people pay you literally just to hit pads, so it's become a tool in that sense. However, these fancy pads, these 25, 6, whatever punch combinations that realistically are not going to be executed in the fight, they have their time and place. It's a good way of working on your muscular endurance, your hand-eye coordination. So it's not completely useless. It has its time and place. However, it doesn't reflect whether you're a good boxer or not. A lot
Interesting.
of times when I'm doing pads, when I'm holding pads for people, I do no more than 2, 3, 4 punch combinations, and I keep an eye on their balance. I keep an eye on where their hands are, making sure it's returned back, making sure that they're thinking about what's gonna happen next, or they moving and whatnot, not just trying to tip tap 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 whatever. None of that. That's all just look good on camera.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know how much cornering work that you've done, but I'm sure you've done some because obviously you're coaching. But when you are cornering and giving advice, the preparation for the fight, how much do you focus on the opponent, or how much do you think, no, we've got our own strengths, so we're going to go with our own game plan? And when you are cornering them, let's say it doesn't go according to plan, what kind of instructions are you looking to give?
Well, the thing is, whilst the fight's actually happening, a lot of people tend to just spur out a load of rubbish, expecting the fight to react there and then. As a fight happens, what I tend to do is I keep things very simple, because that time we've had in the corner should be enough instruction for them to recognize what needs to be done. Okay, so whilst they're fighting, simple things: hands up, move your head, work that jab, don't keep your feet still. Simple things like that. Because a fighter has a split second. If you're shouting for that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, whatever, then chance of getting it twat in the face before they even realize what they need to do. But as far as game plans not working, it depends on the situation. Because realistically, when you train for a high profile fight, you have to have a plan A, plan B, plan C for the time that things don't tend to work.
Okay, I'm just conscious of time. Just gonna ask you a couple of questions. Just if, like, what advice do you give to young boxers? That's the first thing. And for those who have taken a few losses in the professional game, again, how should they view that?
So the first one, advice to young boxers. One thing I'll always say is, look, it's a tough sport. So if you want to do it, just know you have to work hard towards it. You have to make it into a lifestyle. Enjoy the process. Work on your social media and stay in your amateurs as long as you possibly can till your coach is ready, till your coach thinks you're ready to turn over pro.
And in terms of the losses, how should they perceive it? Because almost no one's gonna get out this
Mm.
career without a loss.
Yeah, to be fair, I've I know plenty of fighters who have basically packed it in after their first loss. And I go back to what I said before. Like, if you have that self belief where you really want to take this somewhere, then you're gonna have to accept that things aren't always gonna go your way. And what are you gonna do when something doesn't go your way? I've had 3 losses. Every single one of those losses were detrimental to me to begin with, but then I've always had this self-conversation where I wanted this, I wanted to be here, okay? This is not where I expected to be, but I'm put my head down and keep working hard. So, it's very cliched. It's a very cliched saying, but it's as simple as that. It's like, listen, if you really wanna get somewhere, just understand it's not gonna be a smooth road. There's gonna be bumps.
Yeah. Just on the last point, when people pursue professional boxing, it's kind of like all in or nothing in some respects. What does that look like for a boxer? Like, what does all in look like? So what does he trains every day, twice a day? He got strength and conditioning, his nutrition. Is he working in the evenings to pay for all of this? What does it
Well,
look like?
that's the thing. It's a finance you have to think about. Like a lot of professional boxers are working a 9 to 5 or working a job on the side while still trying to facilitate a full-time job as a professional fighter. The diet, their strength and conditioning, their road running, their boxing, their sparring, their this, their that, their equipment, it all costs. So most of these guys are doing all this while still trying to maintain a full-time job. Now, some guys are lucky to get sponsors, but to get good sponsors, you need to revert back to what we mentioned before, and that's having a good following, having a good base, having a good community, because that's what attracts these sponsors.
Do you so when somebody goes all in, obviously with you're boxing, but then you say, okay, you know what, I'm going to take the coaching thing serious, and you've gone into that, and you're having success in that. So you do, I suppose, in some respects, have a ready-made plan B. How do boxers prepare for like a plan B?
Well, it comes down to it comes down to their career outside of boxing. Like I said, you always need a plan B. Going all in is one thing, but if that doesn't work out, you need something to fall back on, or you're back to square one. Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, a lot of fighters tend to go to the coaching. It all comes down to the passion, and some fighters don't like coaching. They may wanna go into different avenues.
All right. I appreciate your time. Thanks for that. I will end it there, but I really appreciate time coming on, and definitely we can do this again.